There are tons of cool perks to being married to a transit worker. Great pay, great benefits, stability, and career security. All of these make life with a transit worker super comfortable and secure. But I never said fun or easygoing. Most importantly, I never said consistent. I love my wife, and I think she loves me. But if she was a blogger, I'm sure she would love to write about 4 things that suck about being married to a transit driver. Number 1. Canceled and delayed plans. For starters, we as drivers have the most unorthodox schedule of any profession. Did you know in some organizations, we can literally have a different schedule daily? 3 a.m. report time on Monday and a 3 p.m. report time on Tuesday? Combine this with things like traffic, non-reliefs, delayed buses, and road closures. Plans can blow up faster than thin balloons in hot weather. Believe it or not, I was actually late to our very first date. I remember texting her all day about how I was so excited and that I was going to pick her up at 7:30 sharp. I get off at 6:30, so that should be more than enough time to change and take the 15-minute commute to her apartment. Then, my bus got a flat tire. But what's funny is I got the flat tire around 4 p.m., which in theory should be more than enough time to get that sorted out before my shift ends in 2 hours. Absolutely not.
Got him!
A tow truck didn't arrive until 6:45, throwing off my entire schedule and making me an hour and a half late to our first date. Hooray! That was nearly 5 years ago, so one could assume things would get better over time. Not really.
Got him!
Just yesterday, I was completely ahead of schedule on a return trip from Washington, D.C. I just knew I'd be home by 7 p.m. I even called her to make movie night plans. Unfortunately, a 5-car accident on 695 had other plans, thus putting me about an hour behind schedule. I was so close. So close.
Almost had it. You're gonna be quicker than that.
Judgment Zone. It's been an inside joke for years that men don't believe women can drive, and my relationship with my wife's driving is no different. I spend the majority of my time in her passenger seat, praying, tightening my seatbelt, and complaining about everything. Not enough following distance, hitting the corners too rough, accelerating too hard, not enough stopping distance, the list goes on and on. I'm sure those who have bus operators as spouses go through the same thing. Listen, babe, I'm sorry if I'm being hypercritical or judgy, but I assure you it's not personal. I just didn't want to die today in a preventable car accident, that's all. Weird hours. Early on in our relationship, I worked on something known as the extra list. This meant I could work a different schedule every week or every day. Some days I was due in at 3 a.m., other days I was due in at 8 p.m. Some days I have a 6-hour break, other days I have no break. Easy peasy for someone who understands that driving transit is a lifestyle, not a job. Unfortunately, my wife's not one of those people. She's actually the most prompt, organized, routine person I know. Not to mention she's a light sleeper, so you can imagine the looks I would get when my alarm clock would go off some days at 2:15 a.m. in the morning. Combine this with never being able to make date night plans until the day of, and you'll end up with a recipe bad enough to drive anyone bananas. Fortunately, she's a pineapple person. Lack of schedule flexibility and time off. So last night, I was chatting with one of my good friends. I'd asked him, bro, is it anything that your wife hates about your line of work? And without hesitation, he said, the lack of schedule flexibility. He's spot on. When compared to the majority of the professional workforce, bus operators have very few options when it comes to getting time off. Our vacations have to be requested a year in advance. Days off, for instances like doctor's appointments, have to be made ASAP or at a bare minimum 14 days ahead of time. Not to mention, they can be denied. Hell, we can't even be 2 minutes late to work without some sort of consequence. Transit is definitely a lifestyle for both parties, not just the one who drives. So I say that to say, buckle up and just enjoy the ride. These are just a few of the things that can drive your significant other crazy. If you have more to add, leave them in the comments section below, and we'll make sure to tag you in part 2.